Welcome to Recovery His Way. I'm your host, Tom Reynolds. We're here on the campus of His Way here in Huntsville, Alabama. Today I have my son, Andrew Reynolds, and his good friend, Matt, with us. And we are talking about this theme of All Rise. So, we've been we have this event coming up, and we're having a judge speak. And so, it has to do with the court system, the justice system. But really, when you look at this All Rise idea, it's about the fact that as we are joining together to serve the community and help make a difference, particularly in men who are struggling with addiction, we begin to realize that it brings us together. It does things in our lives, and it begins to shape and mold and impact us. In some ways, we look back and we say, wow, I may have been more impacted by this experience than anybody I ever impacted. And the impact it has on us is transformative. And so that's kind of what we've been talking about. And I know you guys have both been volunteering out here for a long while. And so I wanted to kind of maybe have you start by, maybe Matt, you can start, maybe share your journey a little bit, kind of what brought you to this, and then we can kind of dive in a little deeper into what you've done here and how it's impacted you here.
Sure, yeah, that's great. I mean, I love kind of looking back over, the last 10 years and just kind of seeing how God's worked through these new relationships and these new opportunities. I mean, really, I grew up around here, spent some time here, obviously went to school around here, and then went off to Auburn. The whole time, I'm dating my high school sweetheart, Rachel, from who actually went to Madison Academy, quite ironically, with Andrew. And so we had some small connection together back in high school, but we carried on and you kind of went our separate ways, and Rachel and I continued to date through Auburn. And, as we kind of progressed through our, not only our relationship and engagement and marriage and things like that, then we also are kind of walking our faith out together. And really what's interesting about, I guess, my part of the story that really kind of leads me to a place like His Way is, we really were kind of in a place where, we were checking all the right boxes. We were going to church. The kids were, young, and we were getting them into Bible class, and we were trying to make the Wednesday nights and the Sunday nights. And so that's very similar to kind of the way that, Rachel and I were kind of grown up, raised in the church and things like that. And all those things were wonderful. And we absolutely love our home church and what we've been a part of there. But there was really just kind of that big piece of me missing, which was really just an opportunity to just really be part of something special, to be able to serve and to do things, really kind of for other people. And I feel like maybe I didn't notice that. I felt like God was kind of putting that on my heart. And so really, that's kind of the pathway into His Way. We essentially, I knew it was close to our community. I knew it was, right down the road, and I prayed that God could use us in this fashion, and really that's kind of the foundation of me of kind of getting to that place. But really, to summarize it is just that I really just felt like in a lot of ways as young families, people who are kind of in the midst of raising children and trying to create careers and do things, in a lot of ways you can just get caught up in that hamster wheel of life and just get so overwhelmed that, maybe in the ultimate thing where there's a lot of great things going on in your life, but there's still kind of that big piece missing that, which that's that service piece, the ability to just help people, where they are in life. So that's kind of a summary of kind of where I came from. Awesome. Obviously, there's a cool story about kind of how Andrew and I got connected. I'll kind of let him, tie the pieces together. So.
Okay. Well, I just want to comment to one thing you said that I think is really interesting is both of you guys are kind of at similar points in your life in terms of your marriage and your kids and that type of thing. And most people, would just kind of settle with the fact that this is kind of my ministry now. This is the thing I'm focused on, and feel, we're going to school events and getting our kids to church and going to travel ball or soccer teams or whatever it is, and ballet practices or whatever, and kind of figure, that's kind of my life right now, and that's fine. And yet you were talking about that there was something missing there, and I think that's interesting. I think for the people listening and watching this who may be in similar situations, it's good to realize that there still can be a piece that's missing that's critical to our spiritual growth and to our service. So I appreciate you sharing that. Maybe, Andrew, you can kind of bring us up to where you and Matt met.
Yeah, so I've been involved with His Way for a long time, just through you as being the director up here. So I've known about it, been around it. I worked at the thrift store many years ago, so I've been around it in a lot of ways, and kind of interacted with guys through those connections. But something was missing, and I just felt like there was more that I needed to be doing to get involved in a deeper way with these guys and addiction, and it's just a really neat ministry when you get to see it firsthand, as you see these guys that are so broken and struggling and just looking for relationships and a good community to be around, and just to be able to provide that to them and be a mentor to them. It just became like almost just a passion that we had for doing that, and you get so much like encouragement and drive from doing that, and seeing the progress that guys make, and it just gives me a lot of joy to do that. But yeah, like Matt was talking about, is the connection that we've had for many years really just kind of developed really strongly in the last probably 4 or 5 years. And I remember he sent me a text message and said, "Hey, I'd like to get together and talk about this idea I have." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." So I think we went out to breakfast and we talked, and he told me that he's been doing CrossFit, and he wanted to implement that at his way and make it kind of a ministry focused on, the mentorship, also, the health aspect, but also just getting to know these guys and seeing what we can do to be a part of their life. And so we gave it a shot, and we said we'll give it a try and see where it goes from there. And then we did that for about a year, and it went great. We built a lot of relationships and connections through doing that, and it was a good kind of avenue to get our foot in the door, just to be a part of this program. And I think it develops like a connection with these guys that was outside of the program in a way. Like it wasn't a class. It was an optional thing that they knew we were just there just because we cared about them. And so there was no tie to us. They didn't have to come. They didn't have to be a part of that. So it was just like a friendship that developed kind of organically a little bit. And then so that kind of fizzled out over time, and we did that for a year or so, and then
Why do you think it fizzled out?
It was just you got a lot of transition through His Way. You got guys coming and going, and so maybe some of the core guys that were a part of that kind of had graduated, moved on, and so we were left with some guys that maybe weren't as interested in doing that kind of thing, and so we didn't see it as like, slamming the door in our face, but just we're still here. We're still trying to be a part of this. So yeah, maybe we're not doing CrossFit anymore, but we started just going into the house during that time period and just sitting and talking with guys and trying to encourage the guys and stuff. So we just transitioned it a little bit, and then it kind of led into taking the guys to church and going to a coffee shop and just meeting together. So we didn't see it as they were saying no to us. It just wasn't the right thing at that time. And so we still wanted to be a part of what's going on up here. So we just found another avenue to do it.
So you went Wednesdays tell us about what this idea of a coffee shop or all that, and what do you feel like were the benefits or attractions of that?
Yeah, once again, it was an optional thing, so it's them choosing it, and that's what I love about His Way, is everything's kind of put in their lap to kind of choose what you guys provide them. Obviously, there's some structure there where they're required to go to this and that, but it's still their choice. And then so the coffee shop was, they can sign up and come with us, and they show up at Angels Island Coffee on Wednesday nights at 5:00, and we'd sit there from 5 to 6, and it just allowed relationships to form. There was no agenda other than just get to know them, talk about their lives, talk about what the current struggles are, and just ways to encourage them through the things that are happening. And then off-site, I think, helps them maybe just to feel like it's not as, has formed, like they're having to do things the way his way is telling them to do things. So, so it allowed them to kind of be who they are in a different area and get away a little bit, just to have a little less of the structured environment.
And do you feel like that worked? Was it going well?
Yeah, it seemed to go great to me. One of the things that it kind of led us to believe is we need more support system from outside of just me and Matt. Yeah. So we were like, we got to recruit some guys from our churches to come and be a part of this, come sit with us and talk to these guys. And so we have been feeling kind of overwhelmed with just feeling like we couldn't do enough, because there's, up here you got 45 guys and just 2 of us. Obviously there's a lot more people involved in this place, but just feeling like we couldn't do enough to help all those people. And so we're like, we got to get more help. So we would reach out to guys at Mayfair, Twickenham, and we started getting some of those guys coming with us. And so when everything kind of got shut down around COVID is when we're like, oh, this is changing everything. The opportunity came up for us to start doing the table talk down here on Wednesday nights instead. So we transitioned to that, but we still kind of try to take the same structure, same idea of what we were doing at the coffee shop, a little bit more structure, kind of more of a his way class per se. I mean, they're required to be there, but I think it's allowed them to express themselves in a smaller setting, get to know the guys a little bit better, have deep conversations together, and then at the same time we still try to bring that aspect of we need more mentors. And so that's been a big factor of what we've been doing the last year or two, just trying to build that base up of mentors and Christian men that are really just passionate about helping these guys.
Yeah. Right. And one thing, just kind of to summarize that, I think even going back and seeing kind of where both of our stories, have kind of met is that, really what, Andrew and I saw in a lot of ways, I feel like, kind of when we were, young families and things like that, is we really had a craving of really seeing, the church's work, basically the church in action outside of the 4 walls. We crave that. We really wanted to be a part of something that was really just kind of really seeing God's community, at work. And that's kind of one of the words we use a lot around here is community. We want to create community. We want to create friendships and relationships. We want to bring that to, his way. And that's what's been so incredible to watch the volunteers come in, guys who, probably didn't know anything about his way, but just kind of took that leap of faith to say, hey, I want to be a part of something. And then watching them walk through the doors, watching them build relationships, and really all of a sudden, in a month, 2 months time, they're just as much a part of this great community as everyone, else is. And so, and I think that's really what God calls us to do, is to find community, through relationships and through the people who are part of our lives. And that's really what we've been able to do. So I just see this, incredible story of where we are now, is just seeing how God works through people.
Right. I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of times we in the church do is we kind of sit on the back row waiting for somebody to tap us on the shoulder and, find some assignment for us. Either we'd be an usher, or we can teach a children's class or something like that, which are great things. Yeah. But, how do we just kind of step off that back pew and get engaged and do it self-initiated and do it creatively and do it in unique ways? And, part of what, where we started, CrossFit is where we started, right? And then we've gone through the coffee shop thing, and now we're doing table talk, and we're recruiting mentors, and a lot of things have changed and developed over that time. That just kind of is being faithful to this open door and seeing where God directs it. And I think so many times we have a tendency to want to so control it that we just, CrossFit didn't work. Oh, well, I'll go back to sit on the back pew and kind of say, well, that was kind of a try. Glad we did that, But just watching how God kind of changes things, COVID hits and things have to adjust into a different path. And I feel like you guys have done a great job of really letting all these barriers that kind of come up just be re-steering us into a better way, and not. I mean, I think where we are today is so much better than when we started, and probably better than we'd ever imagined.
More
it to be.
impactful, yes.
Right.
Yeah, like you were saying, we just kept stepping in a direction, and we felt like God was leading us, and that's what it takes, is just keep on moving. Don't just get stagnant in what you're doing. And so God kept providing other avenues for us to do what we were doing, and so it's developed into something really great, and we've enjoyed being a part of that, and just seeing what impact it has on this program and the future of this program. I feel like has really made a big statement for what's going on here. So another thing is that we've started seeing guys that have started becoming leaders in the program, being a part of our class on Wednesday nights, and so we feel like we're even training up the next generation of leaders through guys that struggled in addiction, and so they're able to be a resource to the guys that are more early in the program to kind of give back. And so we had class last night, and I counted 15 guys from outside the program, different churches, different ways of connecting with this place, and then probably 3 or 4 other guys that have graduated the program that were back in attendance. Probably maybe even a few more than that, but I think it's just encouraging to see, because just the insight they can provide is different than what me and Matt can provide. So they can say, this is what's working for me out there. You guys can do it. Encourage them and say, because a lot of times guys just get down because they hear about a lot of negative stuff about addiction, and you can't really overcome this stuff. You're just going to always struggle with that. And so other guys that are out there living that life can say, no, just do these things and it'll hold you accountable, and you can make it too.
Right. I know one of the developments of the table talk, particularly where you kind of present a lesson briefly, whether it be video or thing like that, maybe some scripture, and then get the guys in small groups around tables, and then give them some questions and make sure they're intermixed with residents, with guys from that community, kind of interacting that way. One of the things that you've, I know, primarily stepped up and did during that time is kind of created that curriculum, right? And I'm curious about that, because I've known you for a long time, and putting together curriculum and leading classes and teaching and all that kind of stuff really hadn't been your thing. So I was interested in kind of what that journey's been like for you.
Yeah, it wasn't my thing, and it was just something that was a challenge for me. Like you asked me to do something that was uncomfortable, and I was like, well, you've always told me that that's where growth takes place, and I'm not very good at saying no anyways. So it pushed me on a path to kind of figure things out, and then also trying to take some different learning styles. One way I learn best is visually. I took that, and I was like, well, there's a lot of good videos out there that are encouraging and uplifting. So I was going to take those. And so I usually play like a clip of, 5 to 10 minutes, use a topic, kind of just have a good theme for the night. And so, a lot of the themes are, they're meant to be encouraging, but they're also meant to pull something out of the guys. We talk about hope a lot, and community, and gratitude. A lot of things we take and we try to teach up here are things that we see guys maybe struggling with, or things that they will struggle with when they leave, and trying to get them to start planning ahead for the things that they're going to need to focus on when they do leave His Way. Because His Way does a great job of giving them a structured environment, atmosphere, good surrounding, good community of guys that are encouraging, but they got to find a way to develop that for themselves when they leave. So we're just trying to, get them on that path and there's a lot of other things that we're trying to do currently that are hopefully going to do that too.
Well, so I want to get to kind of this next step, which is, so you guys have got involved in table talk and all that. How has this process and this experience 5 years or so of it now, where you kind of got off the pew and kind of got engaged in this way. How has it impacted you, your faith? How has it impacted your family, your marriage? Do you feel like your kids are better because you did this, or is it detracting? I mean, some people say, well, you're away from home more. You're not able to maybe to coach a ball team that you would have been able to do otherwise, those kind of things. So how do you feel like this journey has impacted you individually as well as your families?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, I really think it's fundamentally changed my life, my mentality on how I see things, how I perceive this life. I always say, as Christians, if we're called to walk close to Christ, we almost like get a different pair of glasses. We have the ability to see the world differently through a different set of lens, and I think that's what this community has done for me. And I hope and pray that it's something that has that strengthened my family. I mean, there's no doubt that we're completely interconnected to this place. I tell this quick story is that that this is the second year in a row that my son, who has been a part of Lads to Leaders, in one of the local churches, he as a young man, he's challenged to give a speech. Well, for the last 2 years, he's given that speech in front of 40 guys at his way, and it's extremely really emotional for me, and just the humility that comes with that, to know that hey, God's using this avenue to implant good leadership qualities and servant qualities in my kids, and I think Rachel would say that in a lot of ways it's probably made me focus more on family. So I mean, if you don't leave his way with just an awesome spirit of gratitude and humility, you're missing something, because this place is just it's full of opportunities for you to just kind of have some evaluation about how great or how blessed we are, the things that we have, the abilities that we have to be able to encourage and serve other people. It just really leaves you extremely full. We talk about what do we call it? Our purpose. We strive to not necessarily have what the world calls success, but to really be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves. That's what we really strive to do. So
one thing that I grew up seeing a lot in you doing ministry was going around with you to different uncomfortable situations. Maybe you're counseling some people, or you're going and helping someone off the street, or going to the hospital when someone's passing away. Or I got to see a lot of that. So I guess then I started doing that myself, and then have my kids kind of along the ride with me, and being able to train them to be able to how to handle those situations and see real life situations going on right in front of them, and I think it's good for them to see the kind of ministry that you're involved in, because then it's developing in them something like a passion for helping other people, and just being outward focused. And hopefully, I mean, especially with today's kids, I mean, they're very you see a lot of kids that struggle with maybe communicating with people, because there's so much electronic technology. Maybe it's the social networking or the iPads and different devices and stuff. So they can get very self-focused, because they don't have to maybe talk to as many kids anymore. They can just text and call or send messages and stuff. So I feel like it's a way for them to kind of push them outside of what they're comfortable doing, and help grow some things in them, and get outside themselves and try to see ways where they can help other people. And a lot of my kids have kind of developed relationships with a lot of these guys just through what we've been doing. And I feel like those have been good relationships, and it's good for the guys to see what good family looks like, because a lot of them did not grow up with that. So at the same time, we're trying to show them an example of what a good husband is, a good father is, and what that looks like doing ministry together too.
Right. And I know you've drawn your family into this, and I know that's been a blessing. One of the things I was teaching this morning with the guys is Jesus had a strategy to take the gospel to the world, and the way he did that is he picked 12 men that he wanted to be with. And they spent time with him. That's what they did. They spent 3.5 years walking around with him, watching him, following him, and that kind of stuff. And that's what kind of laid the foundation upon which then they launched this mission that we are now the product of and continuing to this day. And it was no big strategy other than just like you're bringing your daughters up here, or your sons, or and your kids are kind of coming along with you. It's the same process that has revolutionized our world and our lives because of it. So I think what you're doing is powerful. I guess my last question I want to ask you is, as you look forward to where you're headed, what do you see in the future?
You want to tackle that one first?
Sure. Honestly, I think we got to remember what God's already done and just be faithful to that, and know that He's going to provide a way in whatever is coming. But I mean, just some of the things that have developed, I think, are building that community of the mentorship and training up the next generation of leaders through this community. I think that's a big part of it. We started doing the Season Builders, which is a program for us to have a curriculum for teaching guys how to be mentors. That's allowed us to, pull in some guys that have been a part of this program. They're coming up here on Wednesday nights, they're getting involved, but it's given them a little bit more structure to how can you be involved here. And it's an optional thing for them to do, but we've had, probably 8 to 10 guys that signed up for the first time to do that. And I think we've got a lot of those guys that are really passionate about being a part of guys' lives. And so we're excited to see where that goes. Like I said, it's hard to see what God's going to do, but I think He's already done a lot just through these last 4 or 5 years. It's probably been 4.5 now, but what He's done in me, just creating some things in me that maybe weren't my strengths, and making them a little bit stronger, making me a better speaker and better at talking to guys, getting a little deeper with people. It was funny, a few days ago I was at an event, I think it was a softball game or something, and I was just very direct with someone, and they're like, whoa, that was very direct, and everyone kind of thought that was an awkward thing to say or something. I'm like, I hang out with guys that struggle with addiction. Like, I don't have any barriers anymore, I guess, to say some things. So you just got to be very direct and willing to kind of prod into people's lives a little bit. So
okay, absolutely. Yeah, kind of rolling off of that. Personally, for me, I think what it's really created is just a tremendous amount of contentment in my life. I think, in this world, we, the world tends to tell us where we need to put value. Mm-hmm. And I think if we get into a place where God's community is the foundation, then we start putting value in relationships, and we start putting value in how much do we love our neighbor, and how can we help somebody who's struggling. And it's really just kind of changed my perspective on a lot of things. And so that's the personal side of it. And I think, from a His Way perspective, this is an incredible community. This is a men's ministry, and it rolls over into so many other things. And so, what I love the vision, the future to see is I want to see ways that not only does His Way continue to help, be a place for recovery, but even more than that, to see how, a place like His Way in the ministry can go and serve even further, connect to churches, connect to other ministries that could be in need for this. Because what we have to do is we have to be able to create those relationships and those avenues for the men who are coming out of this program in recovery to find community in our churches and things like that, and reestablish those connections. And so that's really my the vision that I see. The exciting part is to see, okay, well, how many points on the map can His His Way be connected to in Huntsville and Madison County, and that's exciting. When you think about churches and businesses and community organizations, I mean, there's just some amazing things going on out here, and these men are incredible. They're incredible people. They're incredible souls, and it's going to be really neat to kind of see how they progress through their recovery and their lives, and then become servants themselves. So it's exciting.
It's just, like you're saying, like these guys have a way to really reach people in a way that not many people can. You can see just how the despair they were in, and just see what God can do in their life, and the impact they can have on other people's lives is just tremendous. And so we try to get them connected with ways they can help and serve this community to uplift the next generation of people that need to be in a place like this. Or, I mean, some of the most passionate people here at His Way are out there, with the homeless every week, and they're recruiting guys that are struggling in addiction and pulling the people out that they used to run on the streets with. And so it's just amazing what can happen in this community just through a few guys that have that kind of passion.
Right. That's great. Well, I appreciate you guys' leadership. I'm proud of both of you. I've seen great growth in you over the years. And I'm thankful that, I was thinking about so many people kind of go through the typical American life where you kind of get your career, you get your wife, you get your kids, you get your house, you get your all this. And the problem is one day those kids leave and your career kind of, hits some peak and you're not going to go any further. And what's left? And I think you guys have already put in place, not just at His Way, but even in the spiritual growth that you're developing, that, the things you've learned, the ways you're growing, I mean, whether it be at His Way or through some other avenue, you got a life of ministry ahead of you, well beyond your careers or even your children's college or whatever the future holds. So I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate you listening and watching to us today. If you'd like to know more about our program, you can check out our website, hiswayinc.org.